Taoiseach, I want to raise today with you the case of Seamus Culleton, the Irish citizen, the Kilkenny man, who has now spent 5 months imprisoned in an ICE detention camp in Texas. Yesterday, the country was silenced, listening in as Seamus phoned Liveline to speak about his ordeal. Last night, I spoke directly with Seamus' sister, Caroline, and I heard more details about the appalling conditions in which he is detained. 72 men packed into a single tent. Filth everywhere, lack of sanitation, violent guards, alleged strangling, 3 men dead already, and conditions so brutal that detainees are gambling on who will be the next person to take their own life. Deprived of fresh air, Seamus has seen the sun only a handful of times in his 5 months there. Taoiseach, he calls it a hell, a concentration camp, and he fears for his life. And Seamus is a man who's lived in the US for 17 years, who runs a successful business in Boston, who married his American wife, Tiffany Smith, last April. But he has now spent more than half of his married life behind barbed wire in this camp. Why? Because he was lifted off the street by ICE on his way to the shops after being kept waiting for his green card following long delays. And it's deeply ironic, Taoiseach, as Caroline says, that one arm of the US government is processing him for permanent residency, while the other has locked him in a cage. To describe his testimony as shocking would be an understatement. It appears beyond doubt to breach American commitments under the UN Convention Against Torture and Cruel or Degrading Treatment. But what is the Irish government doing about this? On your way into Cabinet today, you told the media your officials had contacted Washington. Minister McEntee has said consular assistance is being offered. Yet I understand no government minister has contacted the family directly. And yet, Taoiseach, this is an Irish citizen about whose plight the government has known for some time. Reports of his treatment hit the press days ago with Carolyn Lillington's piece in the Irish Times. So, Taoiseach, you must commit now, on the floor of the Dáil, to pulling out every stop, using every diplomatic lever at your disposal to secure Seamus's release. No delays, no waiting for St. Patrick's Day. Because Seamus, unfortunately, is not an isolated case. Parliamentary questions from my Labour colleague Duncan Smith revealed that deportations of Irish citizens from the US have quadrupled in a year. And we've all read articles about detention of innocent people, like Donna Hughes-Brown, a grandmother who had lived in the US legally since she was 11 years old. Immigration lawyers in America tell us Irish citizens are watching the news and fearing for their own futures. And yet we don't know if any more Irish citizens have been detained in the same manner as Seamus. Minister McEntee says fewer than 12. Is this 10? Is this 11? And yet in 5 weeks, you plan to hand a bowl of shamrock to the man responsible for all this. You plan to offer a symbol of friendship to the man who humiliated Ireland on Patrick's Day last year, when he snubbed you for a photo op with Conor McGregor. With friends like these, Taoiseach, you know the expression, what will you do today to ensure the release of Seamus Culleton and to ensure the safety of other Irish citizens being detained by ICE or in fear of being detained by ICE?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Well, first of all, Deputy, thank you for raising this issue. I first became aware of this issue yesterday via the media. That's fine. That's when I first became aware of it. Obviously, the Department of Foreign Affairs became aware of the case in October and have been dealing and providing consular assistance to Seamus Culleton and the family via the team in Austin, the Consulate General in Austin and the Embassy in Washington DC and our consular unit in Dublin. And I would say to you that we have migration law in this country. We have laws. There's legal status in Ireland. There's undocumented status in Ireland. Every country, bar none, has a migration law. We have sought over the years to try and regularise the undocumented in America via legislation in Congress on the Hill. And long before any President incumbent or President Trump in the White House, this has been a challenge. You know that, everybody in the House knows that. We came very close a number of years ago with the E3 visa, where we lost by 1 vote to have a number of thousand visas allocated to Ireland from the Australian visa allocation. 1 vote stymied what would have been a significant breakthrough on that occasion. And it's been extraordinarily difficult to get consensus on the Hill in respect of migration for any one specific country, because Hispanics, Latinos will all want similar deals. So it's either a deal for all or none. And that's been the consistent position in the US for the last decade or so. And that makes it particularly difficult in terms of endeavouring to try and get the number of Irish undocumented who are undocumented in the United States regularised, because it is a very, very traumatic and difficult position for people to be in, for their families, many of whom established home and so on. The families and so on in the US, but they're always watching over their shoulder. They're always worried in terms of a knock on a door or in terms of they being in a position where they would be deported. And deportations have been going on for quite some time, for quite a number of years. There's a particular intensity in terms of the current ICE campaign. Of that, there is no doubt. Our position is, as a government, we'll do everything we can to help Seamus Culleton, but we have to do it in a way that can really help him and enable us to do it in a way that can be effective for him. We can't promise, because we don't control American migration law or practice, for that matter. But we can engage, we have, and we will. We are concerned about conditions in terms of where Seamus Culleton is held. But we also would be anxious if the matter could be resolved in terms of the status issue.
Well, Taoiseach, if I may say, that is a most unsatisfactory response. And you have conflated, wrongly in my view, quite a number of issues. Of course countries have migration laws. Of course the Irish government has for many years, previous governments too, been trying to regularise undocumented Irish citizens in the US. Of course. But here we're talking about an Irish citizen who's been detained in inhumane conditions for 5 months in the US, in breach of international laws. And that's the issue here. And what I haven't heard from you, Taoiseach, is any sense of urgency about securing his release or about ensuring that no other Irish citizens are being held in the same conditions, and indeed some may be, because we don't know. There could be as many as 12, apparently. So what I haven't heard from you is any words that will offer comfort to families here of Irish citizens in the US, to Seamus's family, or indeed to others. And what we're hearing is simply saying you're going to continue using, it seems fairly limited diplomatic levers. You're still going to go to the US. I mean, Taoiseach, wouldn't it be more appropriate to go to the US on Patrick's Day to offer condolences to the mayor of Minneapolis, because we're seeing ICE killing US citizens on the street and detaining Irish citizens in breach of due process and in inhumane conditions.
Respond, Deputy Taoiseach, please.
Well, again, there are a number of cases, and again, it could be 5 to 6 cases. But they vary in terms of status, in terms of each individual case. And you're implying wrongly my approach to this. I would have thought that what the prime objective is to secure status. That's the prime. Obviously, people want to get out of the detention facility. But look, okay, you know best. And you can do all the public. No, sorry, it's I would argue it's status. Let's not do anything that could even make that more difficult. That's all I'm saying. This cannot be resolved in the public domain. Totally. You should know that. No, either we want to genuinely try and help, and I know you do. Yeah. So the issue is status, it seems to me, is the number one issue that I would like to see. I can't promise anything in respect of securing that. But I would have thought that would be the objective.
Thank you,
Seamus
Deputy
Culleton.
Holly
He's married,
Cairns.
he's been there for 20 years, he has a business.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
That's
Time
the
is up,
ultimate
Deputy
objective
Holly
that we want.
Cairns.